Peter, I'm so happy to be talking with you about fresh crop Ethiopian coffees this year. The deliveries are just starting to come in, and it has been so exciting at the cupping table. I'm thrilled to sit here with you, not only talk about my Ethiopian adventures, but to hear about yours too. So before we get started, just kind of 2 seconds on Ethiopia. Fresh arrivals are here now, washed, natural, crown jewels, royal gems. We have them in all of our warehouses. And it's been a pretty good year for Ethiopia.
Yeah, quality wise, it's been an amazing year, in my opinion. I think, price wise, as people have probably heard, cherry price was at an all time high this season. And that made it tough. We wanted to be selective because when you're paying very high prices for coffees, you want to make sure that the quality is really there. And I feel like our team did a great job. This is our first full year with our office and QC lab in Ethiopia going full force,
Yeah.
with Haile, our country manager, leading it. And that's been amazing.
Yeah.
I know you got to meet him when you were out there.
Yeah.
I got to spend a lot of time out there as well. So to cup with him and Seganet and get to really do a first pass at a lot of coffees and really expand the range of coffees that we're able to cup. And give chances to more smaller exporters. I'm really happy with the result that we've seen so far in terms of the coffees we've been able to get.
And we have a very expansive menu, somewhere of the range of several hundred different lots between all of the grades, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this year we just landed, our second or third year of Supernatural.
Yeah, and that's been great. What I love about our Supernatural lots is they have that, classic big fruit without being too over the top like some of the other, full anaerobic coffees can be.
Yeah.
So you're able to get that really, really good fruit, what you kind of think of as classically Ethiopian, but still a delicate profile. It's fruity but delicate at the same time, which is kind of where you want to thread the needle, at least where I like to thread the needle with my favorite Ethiopians. So that's been a standout for sure. And of course, we've got a lot of other classic wash coffees from the unions. We'll have good, grade 3 options that are great blending options, still high quality, still with good fruit. Those are on the way. Those always come a little bit later than the grade 1s and grade 2 washed, but excited about those coming in a month or two as well.
So here we are, summer, fall, fresh Ethiopian coffees. They're arriving. They're going to roasters all around the world. But it doesn't start there, right? This is kind of in some ways the end of our journey, right? We've worked hard with Haile and our partners at Origin to produce these great coffees. You've been on the forefront of that. And in many ways, while we sit here in the summer and fall of 2026, the journey of these coffees starts in December 25 when we start looking at these. You spent a lot of time at Origin working with our team, meeting with our producer partners through up and down Ethiopia, 10,000 foot view. Kind of walk me through how an Ethiopian coffee gets, the idea of us purchasing some of these wonderful coffees all the way to it's now at the roaster's door.
Yeah.
So what happens in December 2025 to get us to summer and fall 2026?
Yeah, so typically our team's there year round, but in terms of sending traders over, we try to have at least some staff go in both November, December, and then again in January, February.
Yeah.
That early trip is really to focus on wash coffees.
Yeah.
And that's the time where you're able to cup a lot of those. You may be, at the end of that period, you may start to cup some naturals as well, but they're very fresh.
Yeah.
So really that first part of the season is seeing where cherry prices are, seeing which regions are stronger or weaker based on early cuppings to say, hey, where do we want to focus for quality? Where do we maybe want to go lighter on or stay away from? And we see, for whatever reason, climate, otherwise processing, maybe a certain region isn't as strong as it was the year prior. And then once we get into January, February, we're cupping more naturals, and they're still very fresh.
Yeah.
So
and these coffees aren't available.
No,
these coffees don't exist for roasters yet. These
are this is early season, like very early season cupping. They're still even needing to be dried. So we may be getting just, they're hulling dried cherry. Yeah. It's still at the washing stations. It's still on the beds, but we're getting an idea of where the quality is for those lots. With all the situations happening in the Middle East, freight issues, conflict, it's more and more important for us to try and make decisions early and quickly when we can. Obviously, we want to see how the coffees develop. So, you don't want to jump the gun, but it is important to be efficient and be early. And so you also have to cup with those things in mind. You're going to be cupping very fresh
Yeah.
coffees. And so our team and all of our traders, we have to train ourselves to see the potential of a coffee once it's rested for another 30 days, 45 days, so that we kind of know, we don't necessarily know the full end point, but we know, okay, this coffee has great potential.
That's right.
This is one we either want to book or we want to make sure we cup again in 2 or 3 weeks so that we can get a chance to purchase it if it's showing the potential that we really think it has.
Yeah. There's kind of a few chunks to how a coffee becomes an idea until it gets to the roaster's door, right? There's the shaping of the idea of what the coffee could be like in November and December. There's more thorough cuppings in January and February. Ideally, we're starting to firm things up between March and April. April, May, we hope to get things shipped. And then June, July, August, all the way through October is kind of when the floodgates open,
Yeah.
when all these fresh coffees start to arrive.
And this year in particular, the harvest was late, especially in Yirgacheffe and Sadama. So we did see, I would say, anywhere between a 2 to 4 week harvest delay.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the government has rules on when you can move washed and natural coffees from washing stations into the capital for their final processing and export.
That's right.
So in a season like this, naturals in particular, that permit that you have to get a permit to move that coffee from the drying beds or from the washing stations up into the capital. Those permits were issued quite a bit later this year. So that made it more difficult to move out naturals efficiently. Washed was a little easier, that those permits get issued earlier, but for naturals, that was quite a bit more difficult this year. Moved everything, about a month later. And then that coincided with conflict in the Middle East,
That's right.
which then raised diesel prices 400% in the country.
That's right.
And so then you had a big shortage of diesel and of trucks able to move that coffee. So this year, one of the biggest challenges for our partners was, can we even get the diesel we need? Like, let alone the cost, pay any price, but can you even get your hands on the diesel you need to move that coffee from the washing station up to the capital? So there's been a lot of challenges in the year for sure.
And, when people think about Royal Coffee, we definitely cast a very wide net in terms of the depth and the breadth of our menu, right? We cover almost every country in the world. I think Ethiopia is our sweet spot. I think when people think of Royal, they should be thinking about top tier Ethiopian coffees. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I mean, look, it's the birthplace of coffee. We love to source coffee from Ethiopia because it has some of the best coffee in the world. I won't say it's the best because I don't want to offend any other producing countries, but it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
They're always producing amazing coffee. Our team there has gotten stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
We're so lucky to have someone like Hailey in country working hard to help us find new supplier relationships, to help us vet all these lots.
Sure.
It gives us the ability to give chances to, dozens more producers and washing stations than we'd be able to do otherwise. So, for us, we want to continue. Part of the goal of having the new office is to continue to give more chances to more smaller producers who may only own one washing station, two washing stations, because there's so many beautiful coffees in these areas. And so for us to be able to cup an extra 1,000 coffees a year, that gives us a huge opportunity both to find good coffees and to give opportunities to more producers.
You touched on something really interesting briefly there, and you talked about coffee being ready for final preparation in the capital of Addis. One thing that I learned on my recent trip there is coffee is grown, far away up on the mountain, on the theoretical mountain. It's brought down into the city when it's ready to be finally milled. That's not really common in other countries, right? When coffee is grown in Honduras or Guatemala, the coffee isn't brought down to the capital for its final processing. Why is Ethiopia, approach processing coffee this way, where they want the coffee grown there, but, final processing for export in the capital?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it has to do with just the structure of how the coffee trade has been conducted in Ethiopia for a long time. How the ECX used to operate. Also, the fact that most of those coffees are coming from the south to the capital and then to the port, which is going further up and to the east. So I think it has some to do with geography. And also just due to the ability to keep things efficient and fresh. If you are a producer and you haven't sold a coffee, it's better to keep that wash and parchment. And
Mhm.
those big milling facilities have always been typically an audits anyway. So you're able to kind of do the final export piece a bit
Mhm.
more efficiently that way too.
And this year, Ethiopia prices are high. I mean, let's not try to sugarcoat this. Everywhere we look, the C market is up. Coffee prices from around the globe are higher than they were in previous years. Not as high as last year with the C market falling this year. However, Ethiopia is high. What I often tell with clients is you pay a lot, but you get a lot. And I think over the previous years, some of the Ethiopian arrival seasons, they've left some things to be desired, right? We always have a couple, top tier, but maybe the mid tier, there weren't the diamonds in the rough. It was kind of the great and the good. I think this year it is just different levels of great. I think deliveries across grades 1 through 3, plus the supernatural, have been pretty stellar. So prices might be high, but I think you're also getting a lot this year. You've spent a lot of time cupping these coffees throughout the various stages. I talked about November, December, all the way to now here, summer and fall. What are you thinking? What are you hearing from roasters in terms of the quality of the deliveries thus far into the season?
Yeah, quality's been really high. And I think, yes, price is a lot higher this year for sure. But I think if you look at historical Ethiopian pricing as compared with other origins,
Yeah.
really last year Ethiopia was cheap.
Yeah.
I think that's actually the real difference. It's not that Ethiopia is
Yeah.
particular, it's more expensive than last year. And so I think that contrast feels a bit jarring,
Yep.
both for us and for roasters. But the truth is, Ethiopian coffee was such a great value last year.
Yeah.
It's still a good value based on the quality you're getting
Yeah.
in right now, I think which is around, a $3, $3.20 market. You're still getting great value for the quality from Ethiopia,
Yeah.
especially grade 2 washed, grade 3 naturals. If you're, those types of coffees are still
Yeah.
amazing value for the quality you're getting. But across the board, quality is very high this year, I would say. Although that being said, washed availability is quite a bit lower this year than
Yes.
typically. So I think that's something that roasters will want to keep in mind.
That's right.
If you're a big user of washed, grade 1 or grade 2, this is a year where you're going to want to book earlier
That's right.
because, typically in August, September, there's probably still a decent amount of wash grade 2s floating around in Nadius in these warehouses. Not this year.
Yeah.
So if you are if your roaster is using a lot of wash or you like good washed, definitely you're going to want to book that earlier this season because
That's right.
it's likely not going to be there in the quantities that it typically would be
That's right.
in September, October, November, December.
We have a saying that we love to say here: when the best is gone, the best is left, right? And it's a tongue-in-cheek thing that we say at Royal to kind of talk about as you get later on into the year, whatever coffee you're interested in, the best is the best of what we have left. And one thing to talk about Ethiopian pricing is a lot of these coffees are fixed prices. They're not tied to the C. And so one of the things I tell roasters is, look, the C market might fall back to $2 tomorrow, but these top tier Ethiopian lots, they will stay in the $6 range. And this is because this is the best. This is the best of what we have. And so if you're a roaster who's maybe wanting to play the market on your Brazils or your Guats or your Costas or, your Colombias or what have you, what would you say to roasters who are thinking, well, maybe I'll just wait and see to see what happens with G1, G2, G3? Would you say play the market, or would you say maybe now is a good time to book?
Yeah, definitely not this year. I think what you've seen, we did see a dip a little bit in the middle of the season on grade 3 and grade 4 pricing from the kind of February to April range, April, May, but those prices have come back up. And I don't see them going down significantly.
Mhm.
Part of that is the market's back up, right? This is the global market. They see those
That's
for the lower grades. For the top grades, there's really not much left at origin, for this season because of that high cherry price. Big mills were very conservative in their processing of grade 1s because they weren't sure about what the global demand would be for the highest price that they'd ever seen in Ethiopia. So most of these washing stations and drying stations went fairly conservative.
Yeah.
So what that means is there's just not that much high quality coffee left at origin.
Yeah.
What's already shipped and what's shipping now is sort of what for naturals, for example, that's what you're going to see until next June,
Yeah.
or July for arrivals in the United States.
Yeah.
So, no point to wait on any of those. Again, particularly for wash naturals as well.
Yeah.
There's not much left of high quality at origin, but the coffee that's already shipped or being shipped, generally the grade one quality is very good.
Yeah. And, one thing for listeners back home is when he's talking about not a lot left, we're talking about additional availability for people like Royal to buy.
Exactly. At origin. Like if I want to go and buy another container of grade one, there's many fewer options than there would be in a typical year.
That's right. Where right now, if you look at our portfolio for roasters across the world, we have dozens and dozens of options in every type, right?
Absolutely.
Supernatural, we have 3 different options right now. Grade 1 and grade 2, I mean, a ton. When you move into grade 3 and grade 4, the number of containers is in, probably closer to 100 per type. So there's tons of coffees that we've contracted, cupped, approved, and are on the way to our North American warehouses. So that's really exciting news. Let's talk about kind of the breadth of Ethiopia. So let's say you're a roaster back home and you're not used to buying Ethiopia from someone like Royal. We have at the top, we have co-ferments, we have supernaturals, we have natural, washed, we have fair trade organic, just organic, we have bird friendly, we have such a wide breadth. And the nice thing that's excellent about Ethiopia is these coffees keep really well.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly one of the strongest kind of selling points for in Ethiopia, for any roaster, is you can store these coffees, these high altitude coffees, for a year.
Yeah.
And, in many cases, they're going to taste just as good as they did a year ago.
That's right.
Obviously you want to store them correctly, but yeah, I mean, I think compared to a lot of other origins, Ethiopia, is really blessed in that way, in geography and altitude. And so that's, again, another reason that it's great, for roasters, because you can hold it for a significant period of time without big quality degradation.
And when you think about, natural and with respect to Royal has a huge breadth of non-African naturals, right? We do Costa, we do Colombia, we do El Salvador, we do Papua New Guinea, we do Bali, we do Sumatra. These are 6 wonderful places to get non-Ethiopian natural. But now is the time. Now is the time to double down on your Ethiopian options. And I'd love for us to talk just about a couple of stories that we've collected through, some of these producers. One of the things and people that we've talked about on this, on our time together today is Michael at EDN, right?
Yeah.
And he is the creator of the Supernatural.
Yeah.
And if you, are a client of mine, you've heard me talk to you about Supernatural. It's something that I'm really excited about. But you were on the forefront of this, right? Like, obviously you didn't produce it, but you helped Michael bring this coffee to market. You took a chance. Michael took a chance on Royal. You took a chance on Michael. And now we have multiple containers of this new style of processing coffee.
Yeah. And all credit, honestly, to him and his team, and also to our QC team, for being able to make sure these qualities stay super consistent. But his team does a really great job on processing.
Yes.
They're always super meticulous, usually processing it multiple times to make sure the defect count is very low. And the coffees are stellar. I mean, stations both in Guji and Hambella, and also Gedep stations, which are some of my favorites personally. I mean, for Ethiopian coffees, the Gedep area is my personal favorite in terms of quality. I think for this year as well, it's been absolutely stellar. And so I think not only do they do a good job in producing it, but those areas are some of the best in Ethiopia for high quality coffee. So I think it's a combination of things. They've done a really great job, also a really great year for those areas. So overall, we've been really happy with what we've gotten.
I love natural Ethiopia. I love anaerobic Ethiopia. Supernatural's in the middle. I say this with love. I call it diet anaerobic, right? It's not all the way there, right? And, different people define things in different ways, but Michael takes like a 7 or 9 day anaerobic process to make the supernatural, but it's not the full anaerobic, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you think about that time period, there are some anaerobics that go that long and they're just crazy, like way over the top.
Yeah.
The nice thing about these stations, they're super, super high altitude.
Yeah.
And so they're very cool. And so not only that partial anaerobic process, but also the rest of the drying on raised beds, it takes a very, very long time. It's a much more delicate flavor development
Yes.
in those lots. And so it's not the, super over the top anaerobic type flavor. It's just more of a kind of a deep natural type flavor.
Yeah.
And we've been really happy with how those have turned out. Again, I think that that high altitude, the cool weather really it creates a longer fermentation process, which, that is tougher for the producer, right? Because they need space. They need those space to dry more coffee, to move coffee through. And so, it does cost more to the producer, but in our opinion, it's totally worth it because you're getting a great, delicate, lovely, fruity Ethiopian natural flavor that's not over the top.
Yeah. And Michael is brilliant with marketing. I mean, calling it supernatural, right? Like, I mean, that's just a brilliant name, but it also describes exactly what the process is. Diet anaerobic, maybe not as good of a seller. I
You
personally
never know.
don't know.
We could try that for next season. See how it goes. Get a nice can on the bag, maybe.
One nice thing about EDN coffees is they ship among the first. And so roasters out there who are really excited about Supernatural, you should move right now. If you're watching this, you should contact your trader to get some bags in your position. Because people who just need fresh Ethiopia also look to the Supernatural because it's among the first. And so that is a double win, right? It's one of the best and it's one of the first, which means it goes really, really fast.
Yes, absolutely.
So for lovers of fair trade and organic coffees and people who believe in those movements, Ethiopia is probably the single best place for also coffees that score 88, 90 points, right? Like where else can you get containers of fair trade organic coffee that scores among the best in the world? And that's Ethiopia.
Yeah.
One of our suppliers, YCFCU, right? The number of different washing stations they have, Adido, Banco de Hato, the list goes on and on. How are you feeling about those coffees this year?
I mean, those are classic coffees. I mean, we've carried those coffees for years and years. When you think of just a good, classic, beautiful washed Ethiopia, those are the go-tos. Those stations we've been carrying for so many years. And I know you got a chance to go and visit some of those stations, which I unfortunately didn't get a chance to do this year. So I'd love to hear more about your experience going down there and what you saw, where you went.
Yeah. Coffee farms in Ethiopia are far. Wherever you are in the world, getting to Addis Ababa, the capital, it is hard, right? It's very far from wherever you are. And I was just shocked, one, about how big the country of Ethiopia is, but two, just how far the coffee lands are. For safety reasons, we flew to Hawassa, from Addis to Hawassa. We landed this airport that has like nothing, right? You get in that airport and there's just, one gate, one employee. They double check your luggage by signing off. Our boarding tickets were literally handwritten, right? It's very, very small. You get there, you're in, the heart of the coffee world, a place you've wanted to go your entire life, and you're still a 5-hour drive away from the coffee farms, right?
And that's with the new roads too. I mean, it used to take even longer. So it's easier now than it was, 5-10 years ago.
So we get to the second hotel. We've all been traveling for 2 days at this point, or 3 days. And some of us, one roaster who came on the delegation had like 3 red eyes to get there. We finally get to the hotel and we're celebrating. And we're in this, natural preserve, and we meet with Haile. It's like, great, it's going to be a 5-hour drive. We leave tomorrow morning at 6, right? So we go up the hill, and one of the places we go to is the Adido Cooperative, which is part of the YCFCU, Yirgachev Coffee Federation of Cooperative Unions. I might have botched that, but something like that. And it's this umbrella organization of 20 some odd smaller cooperatives that represents the interests of close to 250,000 producers. That's a very large and dynamic organization. And we've been working with them for very many years, buying all different kinds of coffees. Adido is one of the best quality ones out there. We go there. They have their own washing station there. They have, the water luges down here. They have the drying beds up there. There are the women sorting the cherry for this year's harvest. They're singing a song down here on the bottom. The men who are washing the coffee in the luges, they're also singing the song, and you're just met with this warmth, right? And for someone who's loved these coffees for so many years and traveling with roasters who love these coffees, it was a full circle moment, which is, imagine if you are a roaster who's seen this on the bag for 5, 10, 15 years, and you finally get to go and you visit the station and you meet with the cooperative leadership and you break bread with them. It means so much, right? And I think when we visit some of the fair trade organic cooperatives, there is a weight of importance about what they do in a way that is different than some of the private washing stations. It's not to say that the private washing stations aren't doing amazing things. We just talked about Michael and Supernatural, but I don't think I'm bearing the lead here. When you visit a fair trade organic facility that, manages their own mill, that manages their own export, and also has social impact projects, your hair raises up. You want to learn more. And these are not 82-point coffees. I'll buy them because the story's good, right? These are some of the top roasters in the world who are buying these coffees, supporting this. And so we meet them and it's a life-changing experience, right? And so we go to the mill and it's amazing. And then the next day we go and we visit their school. And their school was built by fair trade premiums. So any coffees that are certified fair trade and fair trade organic around the world have a series of secondary and tertiary payments that the community gets to vote democratically on. With these extra pennies per pound over the years, the YCFC co-op decided to make a school built with fair trade premiums. You've traveled the world. I've traveled the world. There is a level of inequality in Ethiopia that is visceral, right? In some of the coffee lands you see, it's different, right, than some of the other parts of the world. It's one of the realities that we all have to live in. And so these problems feel really big, but also sometimes the smallest solutions can be the most impactful one, like YCFCU deciding to build a school. Mm-hmm. So we visit a school, we see the children laughing and learning and playing, and it's a little bit of like, show and tell, of course, right? Are they putting their best foot forward? Of course, of course. But we're standing there in this school that Fair Trade Coffee built, and the school exists. There's a school with 350 students who may not have access to education because if it was not for Fair Trade Organic Coffee. And you can't help but feel something, right? And you see the school bus that is bringing kids from all over the region to this school that Fair Trade Organic Coffee built. Instead of being out in the street, they're in school. And I'm of the opinion that no matter where children are in the world, they should be in school, right? That is the safest, best place. So we're in that school. We're all moved. We say our goodbyes. And they say, thank you for coming. We're so grateful to Royal. Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, if you want to help us build a digital learning center, we appreciate it. Kind of like just like this throwaway comment, like, what? Yeah, good to see you. Right. So we're on our 5-hour drive back down and we're kind of reflecting. What did he say? Did he say he wants to build a computer lab? And so we get to thinking, it's like, how can we actually make this happen? It was, kind of this inconsequential meeting, but ended up being kind of this thing at the trip. How can we build this computer lab for this co-op?